I've been painting since I was really young. Drawing, sketching, painting, making things, whatever. I just love art and I love creating things. This piece, however, is very different to a lot of other pieces that I've done. Different in terms of the styles that I use, different in terms of the media that I used, and also different for the reason. Normally, I just paint for myself to decorate my office and do whatever I decide I want to do with it. I don't sell it, I don't do anything like that, but this might be the start of something new. This piece is for a good friend of mine, a lot of people's favorite online streamer, Hadzi. Kind of joked that I was going to do it, and then honestly just decided, actually, I'm going to do it. And I just started designing straight away, and the rest is history. This took up many months of my life. This video is over 300 gigabytes worth of footage, and the painting itself is over 180 hours of work. I don't want to spoil too much of the story because honestly, it's kind of a mad one. So enjoy the video. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new. Now, the design process of this wasn't like ridiculously complicated because I kind of had a pretty good idea of what I wanted to do anyway, and some good referencing. And obviously Monopoly Man isn't ridiculously difficult to draw and design, but we wanted it to have an AP panda ROM. So that was kind of the route that I was going down here and sketching that out. This is the more or less finished design. I will put it into the computer, tidy it all up and make it all nice and square. So once that was done, basically I put it into the PC and I went over it all in Photoshop so that I could have a nice design, get all the colors locked in, play about with any other colors and any like finer pieces that's just easier to do when I can layer it and do everything like that. Ready for this to then be messed about with for a background, because I didn't have 100% of an idea what I wanted to do for a background. I thought, like you can see here, I'm kind of making it almost like a title deed for an AP, then messing about with some different colors and seeing what I kind of liked and how I could get the colors to contrast and seeing what would tie it all together. I kind of like the red, but it just clashed a bit too much. I didn't really rate it that much. And I've got an idea that is essentially using Monopoly money. I'm going to make my own Monopoly money, and what I'd like to do is change basically the essence of this into like a Bitcoin style thing. So the next step was to then take the Monopoly money design that's pre-existing and change it to suit what I wanted to do. I had a bunch of different ideas as to what I was going to do with this and whether or not I was going to like hand stencil it or spray it or print it or just get it all printed off. But eventually I kind of settled roughly on a design. The next stage, which is ridiculously tedious, is to cut out something like this from these two pieces of lino. Now this is hand carved out of this like rubbery material, and then you layer it with ink and print it to get an outcome like this. So you can replicate, well, the same design over and over and over again. Now the process of actually cutting one of these out is pretty lengthy. You have to use these small chisels and cut through all of this like resisting rubber. And it does take a little while, and I had to do it twice, which makes it worse. Because when you see what happens in this one, you'll understand why I did it twice. Oh, the fucking bee's backwards. Shit! Forgot that was gonna happen. Oh no! Fucking bees backwards, bruv. Fucking idiot. Such a tragic thing to fuck up, man. So after over an hour of carving one design, I realised that I'd messed up the bee and it was backwards and it looked mental, and so I had to then recarve it all, but it was good because it meant I kind of knew what was going to work and what wasn't, and I ended up settling on a final design and then moving into printing it onto the canvas. The bit that scares me about this is the fact that normally when I do these types of prints, I do loads and then you pick the best one, but with this, because there's going to be so many of the same thing, I kind of just have to go with whatever I end up with. I have like a level of control over it, but not a lot. So I'm just going to go with it. The top half I want to be really dark and then slowly sort of fade off. So we'll see how that pans out. So I eventually managed to get every single one done, and it did take ages. Each one is hand placed with differing amount of inks until eventually this was kind of what it looked like, with this nice gradient going all the way down on the pale green. What I then did, and I didn't film any of this because I had to do it outside, was actually get a can of dark green spray paint while it was still quite wet and wash over the top of it with dark green so that it added to the effect of the gradient as well, to give it a final outcome looking like this. So the next stage of the process was to order a pane of glass, because that was just the whole design that I decided I wanted to go for, and then test, because I've also never painted glass before. I figured I would just paint on the glass, but I didn't know how well the paint would stick, how well it would show up, how many coats it would take, all of the rest of it. So this is the testing phase and all of the various different things that I went through to test and, you know, see if it was actually going to be a viable option to do. We've got a nice clean pane of glass. I want to make sure that A, they all show up on here okay and don't have like a different effect to anything else. B, we want to try putting it on, seeing how like scratch resistant it is, and whether or not it's going to come off. C, what marks the Sharpie leave and whether or not the paint will just cover over it and I don't have to worry about it, because otherwise I'm not really sure what I can do, because obviously I'll draw on this with pencil. And then D, test a couple of different fixing options, and then test the layering effect as well with the white paint on the background, and see how they all cover each other up and how it layers up effectively. I mean, maybe I can put it on really thick, but even that's just doing the same thing. I can just wash this through. Like, am I doing something wrong? Or is it supposed to look like a stained glass effect? Or is that just what happens when you paint on glass?
Maybe.
Just try it with normal paint.
Yeah. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Like all trial and errors.
I wonder if it would help with if I like primed it. Like masked it off and primed it.
Definitely make a difference, wouldn't it?
Because then it would be more likely to be solid, right?
Yeah.
That's so good, it just goes on infinitely better.
That's the label, isn't it?
I still think it's going to need 2 coats. You know the crazy thing is, because it's so fucking smooth, the spread that you get on the paint is unreal. I'll be honest, I spent hours testing and trying different things, and I'll spare you the pain that I went through of trialing about 400 different types of paint on different types of paint and different ways of painting, because it was frustrating to say the least. I eventually settled on exactly how I normally paint, which is normal wall paint, and that was it. So here we are. That was a lot of testing for not really a lot of change. But finally, I'd settled on a design. I had the background done. I had all of the tests done, so I kind of vaguely knew what I was going to do to actually do the painting. And it was basically time to just start the main bulk of the piece, which was essentially all of the paintwork on the glass. Now, the glass was supposed to be housing the Monopoly Man, as you can see me doing here. I did just straight up project it onto the glass, which was actually, it took me a little while to figure out that it wasn't just going to stay on the glass and I had to put something behind it, which sounds obvious, but it wasn't. So I've got my dad holding it up in behind, and then I've got a blank canvas behind it, and I'm just basically really roughly sketching it on. I did rework some of the proportions and stuff once it was actually on there, and it ended up being quite different to the base sketches that I had done. But yeah, that was the first step of the process, and then working from there, I don't know, I guess we'll just see how the rest of this video pans out, because I haven't planned that far ahead yet. Now that I had everything sketched out and marked down with some darker colors and stuff as well, I started to put the color blocking in. So you can see there was no real, I wasn't necessarily being accurate with the colors. I was just making sure that the colors were on, because everything, I wanted to do a coat of everything and then go through and cut it all into the nicer coats and such, so that it was all level and flush and even and everything looked good and so on and so forth. Which is always kind of hard to tell, especially when you're working in a new medium, to see how that's going to come out. So it was essentially get the bulk of everything down and then adjust it from there to see how it goes. So yeah, this is pretty much a color blocking stage. It's nothing special. It's just, slowly starting to piece together how that all goes. Could you please open my window? This is where we are at now. Every bit takes about 4 coats to come through properly, and it's quite hard to paint on glass. So I've kind of not filmed a good chunk of the last few bits that I did, but what I'm gonna do now is rub back some of the unevenness just to make it as level as possible before I do like another coat. No idea how this is gonna go, and it could go horribly, hence why I'm filming this part. But, because I want all this paint to be as flat as possible. So we're gonna see how it comes out. But I'm terrified it's gonna like pull all the paint off, because none of this is like fixed down yet. That does feel a lot better. It will look horrible at the moment because obviously it's all scratched. After it had been rubbed down, I went through and started tidying in a lot of the proportions. I made a small template just by cutting a piece of card by hand to make sure that the line work was all really parallel on the hat and stuff especially. And then just started touching in a bit of a second coat, just on, especially on the brighter colors, because I knew that they were going to be a bit more of a pain to get to show through. That was then kind of like a second wash done, ready to then start doing like detailing and the really finer lines. So once I'd done that, I switched over to the back, spent an ungodly amount of time frying my brain over how the watch face needed to go, because I wanted the watch face to be on the back of the glass so that it kind of came through and actually looked like a watch face and was like 3D and gave that depth effect. So enjoy me losing my head trying to figure that out. So we're working on this tiny little circle here. And it's all got to be done in reverse in terms of like layering. So it's going to, I've written it down so I can't mess this up. Hands, then the timestamps, the little miniature dials, and then the wash over the top. I can't even draw any reference points on, I've just got to completely freeball it. Oh, I suppose I could actually draw the reference points on the other side and then... Stress. Right, this is actual stress now. It's been fun. I need to look at the picture about your watch. There's similar sort of Roman numerals.
It is, yeah. The only difference is AP on the 12.
How the fuck do I do AP backwards?
Oh, it'll be upside down as well.
Oh shit! Oh, this is terrifying. The glass is so heavy. Should do it at 7:30 because that's the time he goes live. Does it have a second hand?
It does.
It does. I'm not doing that.
I wouldn't do it. You have to get your white out as well.
Why?
To get your hands in the chronograph.
No. They're staying as blobs. I tell you what though, this has certainly made me realise I'm glad I didn't do the whole fucking thing backwards. Yeah, it's cool. It's very fucking cool. I think I'm gonna have to lay that flat so that paint doesn't run. Oh, that's quite sick, you know.
Is it?
Come here. Like when you get the light on it.
Fucking hard. It looks like a fucking proper watch, bro.
What I want to happen here is because it's 8mm back from like the front of it, whatever way you look at it is going to cast a shadow, but I don't want it to cast a shadow against the green, so we're covering like a massive fucking area so that it's like gonna be on the watch face colour regardless of what angle you look at it from. So, because I want you to like, in theory, like the painting's like here, and you can come around and look at it like that and you're only ever going to see green coming through, white coming through, or like this grey colour. Oh mate, that fucks so hard.
Hard, brother. GG. That is sick.
Yeah man, that fucks.
Fuck yes, fuck that man.
That's so fucking cool.
Oh, right.
That's not even with like the rest of it done
Yeah,
yet.
when the top layer's on that is going to look fucking good.
That's mega, innit? I think the green looks fire.
Look at the bleed through on the minute out.
Oh shit. After eventually getting the design squared down and actually looking really cool, there was unfortunately some bleed through on some of the paint and it didn't quite look the best. So I spent like a day or two, I suppose, trying to fix it and make it work, but every time I fixed it, it just made it worse. So I did eventually just rub it all off and do it all again. And so I did that about 5 times before I settled on one looking good enough, which was painful to say the least. A pain in the arse, because I've gone for about 20 iterations of this face while it's on there, but I just can't seem to get it quite how I want it. And obviously, as soon as I put the backwash on, it smears all the other paint. Wonderful. When I redo this, which I'm not going to do now because I'm about 3 seconds away from having a mental breakdown, I will redo it and maybe fix the paint before I do it. I'm not sure yet. But that's really annoying. Once I'd kind of got it settled and was happy with it, I ended up going back to the front and repainting over all the front, getting all the front presentable and starting to add details in and making all the colours look nice and professional, and everything started to come together nice and slowly. It's all starting to come together right now.
On my face.
Oh, that one.
What we then went through was actually just going through, tidying up every single little detail, making sure the front looked really presentable in like a semi-finished form before going through and doing all the finalised touches and such. So this is getting it to a point where I'm really happy with it, ready to flip over and do the back. Because in my design, I had like a white glow around it, and I wanted that white glow to be on the back, which served multiple purposes. It would kind of give more depth to the painting, but it would also like help fix in the watch paint, the painting part of the watch. I wouldn't have to really lacquer or anything like that. And I wanted that black border to really tie everything together. Now, I do actually go through about 4 or 5 different iterations of how I did this, and I started by painting it all outside because it was spray paint, and then I gave up and started painting it inside, and so on and so forth. And you can just watch it get progressively more frustrated. So what I'll do is I'll cut to one of the explanations on, I think, the final version that I actually settled on this. I've got my murdering sheets down. That's a joke for the policemen that are watching. No, so this is now going to be the 3rd time redoing the back of it, not including the 17 times that I redid the watch face. I've once again scraped it off, cleaned the glass off. The difference that I have made this time is I was doing the border originally after doing the white, because I wanted it to be like behind the white. The only issue is in order to do the border as straight as I wanted it to be, I had to mask it off, and every time I masked it off, it would pull off big chunks of the white paint. And then in order to get it perfectly straight, it requires me to fiddle about with a Stanley knife and scrape bits of the black off and so on and so forth. So I kept ruining the white and then trying to touch the white in and accidentally overspraying it pretty significantly. This time, I have done the black first. It won't be how I originally planned, but fuck it. We're gonna do some spray painting, man! Right, so the goal is come up to the edge and let a little bit overspray. And that's gonna be what gives us the nice glow. My only problem is I'm not very good with spray paint, so it comes out how it comes out. I don't think I've got the mental capacity to redo it again. So let's get our distance. That'll do it. Fucking light's right above where I need to look. If that has gone to plan, this should have a lovely white outer glow. Shouldn't be too much, be too OTT in terms of what is around the edge, which is what I was hoping for. So while I waited for the spray paint on the back to dry, the next thing that I went through and did was shrink wrap a load of bolts that were going to attach the actual pane to the wood that I was going to be mounting it on. Now the reason for shrink wrapping it was solely because I didn't want to put metal bolts like pressed directly against the glass. I got bolts that were sized down from the hole and then shrink wrap them so that they'd be nice and snug, but it wasn't metal on glass, which obviously probably would have been a bit of a liability. Let's flip this. See how we are looking. Oh yeah, that is perfect. That is on the money. Right, the back is done. I'm not touching the back anymore. I would maybe like to tidy up around the walking stick. But honestly, for the most part, that's gravy. The next stage in the process was literally to do the finishing. It was, the back was ready, the front was ready, I was happy with the face, I was happy with all the line work and the detailing and stuff. And now it was about making it that longevity was actually a factor in this painting and it wasn't just all going to peel off immediately. And obviously, as I say, like during the testing phase, we've done quite a lot of testing and stuff. I was actually recommended like a specific type of lacquer. So what you can see me doing here is lacquering the painting. And I do cut to it at the end of how it looked, and it looked really, really good. But it took ages to dry. And then when I came back around to it after it had dried, was where it all started going wrong. And at this point, I was about 140 hours deep into this whole painting as a whole, including all the testing and stuff. And this was where everything started to go horribly wrong. This is terrifying. Can you see it? Yeah, you can. So that like gloss is the lacquer drying. And there's a lot on there. But honestly, I'm just scared to see how this comes out. I never actually filmed any part of this once that layer had dried because I was so heartbroken when I saw it. So here's a picture. But basically, the thinners in that lacquer brought through the Sharpie lines because I didn't wipe all the Sharpie lines off as I was painting it. And it meant that there were Sharpie lines poking through in a handful of places. I then went through the process of trying to fix that. And by trying to fix that, I painted over where the Sharpie lines were in hopes that when I then re-lacquered it again, it would blend that paint back in with the lacquer because there was a slight discrepancy in the paint colours now. It has been a day of this drying. And frustratingly, the colours have not quite blended how I wanted them to. As you can see, there is discrepancy in places where it's been touched in, which is no bueno. I mean, the only bright side is that it has actually hidden the Sharpie lines. So unfortunately, touching in and recoating did not have the desired effect. So I'm recoating all of the things that are uneven. Alright, I've not filmed an update in a little while, but basically last night I put another coat of lacquer on after repainting the whole surface. And I don't know how well it's going to show on camera. It kind of it's like, bruv, the only way I can explain it is it looks like a ball bag because it's put these like wrinkles in the paint where I assume the paint hasn't bonded with the previous coats as well. I'm going to rub it back a little bit more. I have rubbed it back since. This looks a lot better than it did, even with the fact that it's rubbed back. I'm going to rub it back a little bit more. And then I'm going to give it one final coat of lacquer. And I'm going to see if that brings it to a place where I'm content with it. If not, I mean, you can see there's imperfections down here anyway, which are going to have to change. If not, then I'm restarting the whole thing. And I think I'm going to cry. I can't lie, it's the next day. The second coat of lacquer, when the light's not shining on all of the slight imperfections. It's actually done an alright job. The ball bagging is still there, but it is a lot less noticeable. After mulling over it and trying to fix it in a few different ways, because I knew this was kind of the end if I couldn't fix it, I decided I hated it. And I stripped the whole thing back and scraped all of it off. It is stripped. My hands are in agony because that took ages with Stanley blades and stuff and fucking blood everywhere. Thankfully, before I had my moment and stripped it all off, I did actually get a piece of film and draw over it, so I had all the proportions back. So now, the front, there is nothing on there at all, and all the line markings are on the back. If I decide to reuse the same lacquer, it won't pull through any Sharpie marks like it did the last time. I didn't film any of the process of just repainting it or anything like that. You've obviously seen it all, and I've done more or less the exact same process. Like I said there, I didn't actually make any markings on the front. I just had it pinned down behind on the back. And then I color blocked in all the proportions and basically just went through and done all the line work after. I did take photos as I went through. This is all from the redo. It brings us back round to the lacquering stage and pretty much finishing it. And all we had to do then was deliver the entire piece. It's that time. We've got to package the bad boy up now. How long's it actually been since I started? The beginning of January. It is now the 9th of April. I've had it finished for a little while. I have still got to drive it across the UK and then fly across continental Europe. And we're going to bubble wrap fuck out of it, cling film it, put some cardboard around it, put some webbing around it so I can hold on to it, and then hopefully that is secure enough. And that is how you package 20 grand's worth of painting. Ta-da! It's time to take the last 4 months of my life in carefully packaged canvases across continental Europe. But first we've got to drive it to the other side of the UK. So this is the scariest part of this whole experience. 4 months of daily work is now packaged up in some bubble wrap and cling film. I'm thrown in the boot of Pud's car. We're driving all the way to the northeast to spend the night, and then northwest to spend the night, and then I've got to put on a private jet tomorrow and fly it across the continent. This is the maddest, most expensive postage and packaging that's ever existed, bruv.
I'm so nervous but so excited at the same time. Oh my gosh. You ready? Oh, that's sick. That's so sick. Oh my god. That's gangster. On the wall, I'm gonna echo. On the wall, that's gonna look insane.
Yeah.
That's sick. That's so cool. With the lake hill.
Look at the time though. What time is that? Unless I've fucked it up. Yeah! Oh. Love, brother.
Appreciate it, thank you. That's sick. That's so cool. Love, appreciate it, thank you. Wow.
What this year has been for me so far.